There is never a dull moment with Kaizer Chiefs, and in recent turn of events, they have served Omega Mtaga and Puso Titechane with termination letters. But there is one condition in which they can be released. Does this make sense? And why has this actually happened? Well, let's talk about it. Hello and welcome to Kosi Nation Fan TV. I am Pelo, I am your host, and this is our fans meet and talk about Kaizer Chiefs. Amakosi Football Club. 2 weeks ago, Kaizer Chiefs gets Puso Titechane, Omega Mtaga, and other players, and they tell them, hey guys, we actually need you to come and be the ball boys in the Carling Knockout Cup match against Amazulu. So these boys, they refused flat out, and they said, nope, we are not doing that. And Kaizer Chiefs did not take kindly to that because they were like, no, we are not going to be disrespected by the likes of you. We have developed you, and we are asking you to come here and be the ball boys. A simple task, and you are refusing to do that because you think it's beneath you. Now, there are obviously debates when it comes to were Kaizer Chiefs right for doing this or were they wrong. But then again, for me, on my side, I think that it kind of does make sense if they had no other choice for them to ask those boys, because who else could they have asked if the under 15s, 16s, and the boys who usually do that work were not available? They were going to ask them, obviously. So I get that they might feel disrespected, but at the same time, they are part of the team and they have to fill in if there are gaps open, because just because they were ball boys in that game, that were supposed to be ball boys in that game, that does not mean they were now going to do that thing all the time. It was just a once-off thing. Turns out then they decided not to do it. So now Chiefs has obviously served them termination letters. First of all, before we talk about the condition at which these boys can leave, I do not understand for the life of me why Kaizer Chiefs are also doing this, right? Because let's look at the case of Titechane. Fine. With Titechane at right back, Kaizer Chiefs has Riv Frosler, Dylan Solomons, and also Kwinika can play in that position. So we're kind of covered in that side. On the left, you have Omega Mtaga. But when you look at the options that Kaizer Chiefs has in that left back position, you have Hlante, who's not performing well. You have Dover, who's injury prone. You have Mashiane, who's actually more of a winger than a left back. And then you have Mtaga, who we could have gotten for free from our development. Because if we are going to go out next season and sign a player like Hannah Mump, number one, there are two problems with that. We have to release one of the foreign players, and number two, we have to pay a lot of money to get Hannah Mump. Even if we go for a local player and go to Stellenbosch and get a Uqobulwakhe Sibande or someone else from Stellenbosch, it's going to cost us money because they know that we desperately need someone in that position. Yet, Tina, we are releasing one of our own players who could have filled in that position. So now, once again, it's like, why is Chiefs letting this happen? And obviously, there's going to be some people who are going to say, it's been 2 weeks, so probably Chiefs have tried to look at this situation and look at how they can come up with a better solution. If I think about it, is there another solution that could have been better? I think so. They could have paid the fine and they could have stayed at the team. However, I don't think that could have been a solution, because I feel like, from what I said in the other video when I was talking about this situation, I think that these boys did this thing on purpose. They wanted to leave because there were reports that after they had refused to do the ball boying duty, also Titechane then showed up to Unachurena wanting a clearance, so wanting to leave Kaizer Chiefs, and that is where the condition came in. So I think that even though they would have punished them or tried to punish them, then these boys were not going to serve that punishment, because it's clear that they are probably wanted somewhere, and because of that they don't care what happens between them and Chiefs, which is also a stupid thing, because you don't want to leave your former team with a bad track record, because burning bridges in this game of football, I don't think it's a good idea, because you can even clearly see right now with Kaizer Chiefs that there are some people who say certain things about Chiefs, but then you see them hanging out with Kaizer Chiefs, and then you can see that Chiefs will always kind of go back to the players who used to play for them, and the people who actually, what can I say, who were once part of Kaizer Chiefs, they will take care of them as long as that relationship ended up being well. You see players going to these legends games and all of that stuff. So it always helps to maintain good relationships with players, but it's clear with teams that you have played for. But it's clear that these boys are obviously ill-informed and ill-advised by someone, and because of that they are now doing these things and burning bridges. Now the condition obviously for them is one thing. Wait, before we talk about the condition, please make sure to subscribe, please make sure to like the video so that it can reach more people like you. I appreciate that. Just take a second and do that. I'm giving you a second, please do that. Okay, so the condition that Kaizer Chiefs is going to release these players is if any potential suitor or any team who want to buy them, that wants to buy them, must pay Kaizer Chiefs 1.5 million, which they call it development compensation. So basically, because these boys were developed by Kaizer Chiefs, they are saying over the years the amount of money that they've put in developing Puso Titejane and Mtaga is about 1.5 million per player. So now they are saying anyone who wants them must come and pay that amount of money, which obviously makes sense because they did invest in these players and they made them grow and develop into this. I will tell you now that I am still going to say I don't know how we get here, because now we're establishing or we're setting a precedent, right? Because once you start doing one thing, that if a player misbehaves, if a player does something that you don't like, you are going to offer them termination letters and say people must come and buy this player. It's actually like placing a player on a transfer list, but then in this case, the other people can just wait for the contract to expire. Or in some cases, you remember what happened with Akai. With Akai, it's not that we didn't want to, he did something wrong, but Chiefs put him on a transfer list and then no one came to buy him, and then we ended up releasing him in any case. Even with Sekota right now, they had no space for him in June, and then they just placed him. They didn't even place him on the transfer market. They just released him with, what do they call it? Mutual agreement. And then the next thing is playing for Stellenbosch and is improving as a player. So with this thing, I think it's difficult for Chiefs to sell players to people around the country. And even with these two, what I foresee happening is that they will stay on the transfer list and no one's going to buy them until their contracts expire, and then they will then leave the team. Which it depends on how long they have their contracts for, because if it's still 2 years, then it's kind of difficult on the boys, and then they will have to fold, come back and apologize to the team. Which, if that's the case, if their contracts have 2 years remaining, then Chiefs knows what they're doing. But if it's like expiring next year, then these boys don't mind gymming on their own and then joining a team for free. So I don't think it has any point unless they still have long contracts with Chiefs. Because on one hand, I can see where Chiefs is coming from. They want to say we don't want to tolerate disrespect. But on the other hand, then you are telling other players that if you want to leave Kaizer Chiefs or you are not happy, all you can just do is do something that's going to kind of force their hand. But I'm looking at players like Abotumsan Zuma, who had their own problems with alcohol, but they were given warnings after warnings and they were not released. And yet these boys do this one thing, and all of a sudden we can't see a way past that because they are young and they are probably ill-advised. So I'm very confused with how to interpret this whole situation. But what do you think about this whole thing? Let me know down on the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, remember, equals alpelumoya.